My son Brody's 8 years old now, and he'll be 9 coming up in March next year. And we noticed something a little bit different with Brody when he was probably about 4. He was in preschool and he was having an okay time in the beginning of the school year. And we'd always noticed he was a very high energy boy. And as the months went on, the teacher kept asking us all kinds of questions like, do you feed him sugar in the morning for breakfast? He's not getting along with the other kids. He can't pay attention for more than a few minutes. He couldn't be attentive and he couldn't pay attention to write his name. He couldn't do the things the other kids could do. When we finally got to kindergarten, we knew that there was something very different about him. He was difficult to get along with others. It was difficult for him to make mistakes. It was difficult for him to focus. If he didn't get something immediately, gosh, how do I put this? If it wasn't perfect in the beginning, or he couldn't do it, or he couldn't pay attention long enough to figure out how to do it, he would just throw his hands up and walk away. Took him to the psychologist. They did a battery of tests, 5 or 6 hours of testing one day, which is pretty difficult for a little kid. Came out with this little blue folder. Here it is, held it up. He has ADHD. He needs to be on medication. All right, well, we'll try it. You try to do the best for your kid, so we'll try that. And we tried all different types of things. During the process of trying things, we noticed that each of the medications had a side effect that wasn't helping us. Some side effects, he would blink and make a lot of faces and a lot of grimaces and different gyrations with his face. Other medications made him very sleepy. Some medications made his emotions roll like a roller coaster. They would be up, he'd be down, he'd be mad, he'd be happy. And you never knew from moment to moment what was going to happen next. So we took him off the medication. Within a few weeks, he was back to his old self. He was still high in energy. He was still hard to get along with in some ways, but at least he wasn't crying. So we thought, all right, we'll start looking for something else. So I started doing research. What else works? What else isn't a medication? What else can I help him with and get him moving in the right direction that isn't going to have so many adverse side effects, that I know will work, that isn't a pill or a diet or the things that haven't been proven? Stumbled upon Play Attention. All right, I'm a skeptical person. I'm not the brightest person in the world, but I'm not the stupidest, and I'm skeptical. So I talk to the Play Attention people, they were wonderful. They always have been wonderful. Talk with them. I talked with a few other parents and decided, all right, we're going to try this. We're going to get the helmet. We're going to get the game. We're going to try it. What the technology was and how it worked, and I could really research the technology and what was behind it. It's good science. There isn't anything behind it that can hurt Brody, that later in his life it will come back to haunt him or hurt him. It's something that can only help him. The folks at Play Attention said if he played a certain amount of hours, depending on his condition, and we ended up playing about 45 full hours, that he would have long-term relief, not a cure. It's a way to help him focus. It's a bicycle helmet that's been fitted with sensors that read his brainwaves. When he's focused, the game works. When he's not focused, the game stops playing. He can see his focus on the screen. And that's big. Because if you tell a 5, 6, 7-year-old to focus, they have no idea what that means. As an adult, you understand, oh, it means, you know, I need to sit back, I need to listen, I need to take a breath, I need to be here. But for a kid, they don't know. When we got Play Attention, he could see his focus. And every time we played, his focus got a little bit longer. And he could pay attention a little bit longer. And he wasn't as impulsive, where he would hit the keyboard a few times during a game, or sometimes 20 or 30 times during a game. Then it would go down to 20 times, then 15, then down to 10, and then down to none. Where he was paying attention first, maybe for a minute, then it went to 2, then it went to 3, then it went up to 5 and 7. It's a marvelous thing to see a kid learn how to focus. They can learn how to pay attention. They can learn to stop the impulsivity that they feel and take a step back in their mind and go on with the task at hand. With Play Attention, when you start the Play Attention program, you're going to want to train somewhere between 35 and it could be upward of 80 or 90 hours of training. And it's a pretty big time commitment. We ended up training about 45 hours. And what we did is I set up a schedule with Brody with rewards. Then we trained 3 times a week for half an hour, and we called it brain training, and that's just what we did. I found with Brody and other people, other kids that age, as long as you have a schedule built and they know what's going to happen, they'll stick with the schedule. But if you don't have a schedule, it's easy to put it off. It's kind of like exercise. It's easy to put it off. It's easy not to do it that day. And that worked really well for us. It took me about 10 hours to see results. And that was, yeah, about 10 hours of training to see results. Where it was measurable, other people could see it. His teacher, my sister that came to town that I only see 3 or 4 times a year, could see the result after about 10 hours. But we played to 45 hours because that's when you know it's stuck. It's sticking in his brain, it's done. I don't have to go back and retrain him. He's gonna have this help, this training for the rest of his life. And at the 10-hour mark, he just started applying the things he was learning with Play Attention to his life. So instead of just sitting down and playing the game and getting a little bit more focused while he was playing the game, he was a little bit more focused and less impulsive in the real world, where you knew he would like to go hit his little brother or go hit the dog with something. He would step back and kind of take a breath and just walk away and act a little less impulsive than a kid that's 7 or 8 years old. And that's kind of tough sometimes when you're a little boy that's 7 years old. The thing that jumps out the most when we were around the 10 hours of training and where we saw the difference, my sister came to town. And my sister loves my kids, always has loved my kids. I love her kids too. But when she came to town, she hadn't seen Brody for almost all of his training time, almost 5 or 6 months. We were at this 10-hour mark, and she comes to town, and all she wants to do is hang around with him, because now he's so much fun. He's not doing the impulsive, crazy things he was doing. He's not jumping off the back porch or hitting people or doing a lot of the things he was doing. He's being a regular kid that people want to hang out with. So I think that was the defining moment to me where I'm like, we're on the right track and we're keeping with this and we're going to go to 45 or 50 hours, whatever we need to do. So that's what we did. Brody's absolutely maintained what he learned with Play Attention. He's never been perfect. We never expected him to come out of this process as perfect role model child. He came out a normal kid that is within the normal range of attention and behavior and impulsivity. He's still an 8-year-old boy. He's not perfect, but he's really doing a great job. If you told me a few years ago that I would be sitting here with this kid, with this wonderful child now that can go to school and is actually praised at school and got the Best Reader Award last year, I don't know if I would have believed me either coming back. It's been a tough road. When Brody was in kindergarten, he would roll around on the mat during circle time. He could never pay attention. He had a hard time writing his name. He used to fight with a couple kids out on the playground. He would put things into a light socket. He's jumped off the back porch before. Nothing for Brody was ever too fast or too high or too hard or too anything. He just didn't have a throttle. And to me, that's what ADHD is. There's no throttle. There's no throttle for impulsivity or what they need to do. There's just nothing to pull them back. With Play Attention, they learn that throttle. They learn how to focus and how to stop the impulsivity and how to keep their behavior in line, because it's just like muscle memory. They learn it over and over and they practice it, and then they know it and they can use that skill for the rest of their lives. So that's where we were, and that's how we got where we are. We played Play Attention for about a year, and now he doesn't play any longer. He'll do some demonstrations and show you what the games are like, but once they're done, they're finished. Once they've learned, they're done. So that's where we are now. Play Attention for us is the best thing our family's ever done. Is it a lot of work? Yeah. It's a lot of work for both the coach and the child. But this is a training lesson that Brody will keep for the rest of his life. There's nothing else worth doing that for your child.